All right. It is the return of Braxton, this time with friend, who we will call
Yep.
Lawrence. How are you gentlemen doing this fine evening?
Business
Great.
partner
Business partner, yeah.
Yeah.
and
Business
friend.
partner.
Business
I
Yeah.
partner
mean,
and
we
friend.
were friends before we became business partners, but
That's
Yeah.
didn't sound
Yeah.
like it.
The business is the operative word in there. Don't want
Yeah.
anybody to
yeah,
think we're domestic
Yeah.
partners or anything like that.
All right. Before we start getting into why these two esteemed gentlemen are here, we're going to always talk about what fuels tonight's discussion, which will always be America's native spirit, busting out the IW Harper 15. It is, well, it was revived by Diageo back in 2015. The Bernheim brothers used to distill this, and it is now distilled in Louisville by Heaven Hill's New Bernheim Distillery. It is aged in Witzel Stelzer Distillery, also in Louisville. And then it is, I don't know, bucketed over, maybe by drone, who knows, over to the Tullahoma distillery facility in Tennessee. And that is where you get IW Harper 15. So there we go. Did you guys get all that? There's going to be a test later.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I half expect you to say Tehran instead of Tellahuma. That's where I thought it was going to be.
Maybe if we could probably solve a lot of problems if we just sent them a bottle. They'd be like, oh, you know, that America's not too
Just
bad. Forget that
maybe they
whole
just
debt
need
to
it.
them.
They need to get it. They need to take a drink and just calm down a little bit.
Calm the fuck down.
well, oh, I was waiting for the Jocko Go ad
Oh
that I
yeah,
knew was
yeah.
coming.
I'm
I knew he would
drinking
do it.
Oh,
Jocko Go.
yeah.
You can get it at jockofuel.com. I'm not
No.
sponsored, but I'm hoping if I say it enough, they'll send me a free
All
case or
right.
something.
Well,
Probably
now
not, but
now we are now sponsored by Jocko. So thank you.
yeah.
Drink
At
This
least a
Jocko's
dude,
Go
sponsor.
Fuel.
this dude drinks Jocko Fuel like 24 hours a day.
I
Yeah.
had one of the protein ones like a year and a half ago at a gym I was at. It wasn't bad, but I was just like,
No, it tastes
I sell
good.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to drink Monster and it made my chest hurt, so I quit doing that. So I drink
Yeah,
this
yeah.
stuff and my chest doesn't hurt
Now
anymore.
I don't know if this is related. Braxton, you definitely know probably who this dude is, so I won't disclose who he is.
Okay.
But while we were hanging out recently,
What was Mike Lee?
he said he and he's younger than me. Like recently had what he didn't even realize that he had a heart attack. And he
Oh,
told the doc he drinks like three white monsters a day on top of like two pots of coffee. And we could probably deduce that maybe the monster's the culprit there. So
dude,
I would
Good
just
chance of it.
dude, when I was going through my heart stuff in 20 shit, what year was that? 2015, maybe. I think it was 2015 when I was going through like my for real heart. No, it was before that, 2012. But at the culmination of it, I think was around 2015. I'll have to hit up my buddy Ryan Mickler and see because I was on his show around then. But anyway, when this shit started, they were like, "Hey, the cardiologist, being they here, was like, hey, do you drink energy drinks?" And I was like, yeah. I mean, I don't know what red-blooded American kid is not drinking
yeah.
energy drinks. Like, yeah, dude, I'm hitting energy drinks up. What's up? And they that was the first question. So I've always kind of looked at I've
Some
I've
weird
always
shit.
kind of viewed them anathema ever since then because
Yeah, I
that
cold
freaked me
turkeyed them
out.
like 4 years ago. I haven't had one probably since, other than no, I honestly I don't think I've had one in like 4 years. I just cold turkeyed it. Just don't desire it anymore. I just drink coffee all the time and good to go. Now you, on the other hand, are drinking Jocko Go. Go ahead.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, this is what you drink when you're out there getting after it.
There we go.
Getting after it,
Yeah.
Out here getting after it, getting up
getting
at
after
4
Yeah.
a.m.
All right. So as I was
And
discussing before Braxton decided to show,
Oh, okay, okay,
so
okay.
Noah, everyone I think who has watched this has seen you before. They know who you are, but Lawrence is a new party. So Lawrence, how the hell
yeah,
did you get involved with Braxton of all individuals? And what's like give us a little background. You don't have to give me your life story, but if you want to, you can. We got all night. So it's up to you.
I met Brad. I
Yes,
think it was in a Twitter group chat
yeah, it
where
was. Yeah.
me and Braxton became acquainted, and then I don't know, how the Twitter friendships kind of come about, and then just, kind of became better friends over the years, talking on the phone and whatever. And so that's kind of how we came together. And then here, not in a gay way, but in a friendship way.
No,
Keep saying it. I'm
Just
starting to
gotta
wonder.
gotta
I
gotta
don't know.
clarify that.
he preempted this shit in such a
Keep
way,
saying.
dude. I've got fucking chalk on my hand for my children on this table, and I have to be like, hey, my buddy and I are not, because it's 2025. Yeah, yeah, that's
These
fucking.
are
And
these are
it's your
unfortunate
favorite month of the
clarifications you
year
have to
as
make.
well. So there you go. Favorite month of the year. Good to go.
Yeah, I think Mike Lee made it a national holiday, but
All right. We have the first Mike Lee.
okay. No, I don't want to talk about Mike Lee anymore.
Oh,
Let's
gosh.
let Lawrence
Oh,
tell his story. Yeah. We
yeah,
were in
and
a
then
big group chat.
we were in a big group chat together, and then just I think we kind of started talking about supply chain stuff because up until here a few years ago, up until about 2 years ago, I used to haul a lot of refrigerated meat kind of all over the country, and hauled live hogs to slaughterhouses. And kind of through the whole COVID thing, I was seeing firsthand of how that was affecting everything with them shutting down the packing houses and everything.
Yeah.
And me and him got to talking about that, and that's just kind of where our friendship started, I guess, there. And then yeah, here about a year ago, we kind of come up with the idea to start this meat company. But
Yeah, I was
yeah,
gonna
Dude,
so
say
that's kind of
I
how we
had
came together on
you,
that.
Braxton, you did a hell of a job of unless I missed it completely, but I had no idea you were. He says a year, and I
yeah.
just know of it from like a month or two, maybe when you were like, "Hey, what do
Yeah,
you think of this website design?" I'm like, "Is he fucking serious? Is he really doing
Yeah,
it?"
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, we're
It's
careful.
it's
Yeah.
it's yeah. It's been in the works for, I mean, yeah, quite a while. I mean, it takes quite a long time to get these animals to slaughter weight. So I
Yeah,
mean,
that's one of the many
we've had
questions.
stuff we've had stuff on feed for a few months for this, and then yeah, it's been in the works for probably about a year. It kind of started off kind of half jokingly talking about it, and then one day, I don't know, we were talking and it was like, hey, are you serious about wanting to start that? Yep, right
Yep,
there, Pasture Peaks Farms.
Pasture Peaks
Go to
Farms. There it
Yep,
is.
go to pasturepeaks.com to find all your meat needs, as
All the
long as it's
meat.
beef and chicken. And you can get one of those great t-shirts that Braxton got on.
Yeah, what is it? Come and take it, right? Is that what?
Yep, come and
Yeah, it's a
take it.
That's
Yeah.
commentation.
pretty good. That's
Yeah.
pretty good. Who came up with that?
I think
Well,
Braxton did. I think he did.
hold
I think he might have.
this gets into
I think
dangerous
so.
territory, but yeah. hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yep.
Dude, so I was on, I don't want to say too much more than this, but yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Yep.
Dude, okay. So I got on Twitter originally. I was fall calving with a friend of mine, or I think it was fall calving. It might have been, I think it was fall calving the first time I got on. And then I started talking shit at AOC because we were, we were calving out and, we're sitting in this, what used to be a hostess truck, ripped the bed off and then they made like a little house to be in or whatever. So we were sitting in that and I was bored out of my mind waiting on, when you're calving, even on this is the big place. It's a lot bigger than it's big. Uh, Even then, when calving starts slowing down, there's a lot of sitting, waiting on stuff.
Mm.
So I made a Twitter account. And anyway, that's how I got on Twitter. I don't want to say too much more than that.
Oh, I already told him the story, like going back to like the where I guess we all kind of first interacted with you. Do you remember like when
Oh,
Nick
yeah.
was hosting the chats and all of a sudden we got hacked and there's just gay porn everywhere?
No, I never saw that.
Were
shit.
you
What
on
the
that
fuck?
one? You might not have been on.
No.
That's why I told. That's why I was
What
like,
the fuck?
yeah, that's how I met Braxton. He was on these chats with us, and we
What the
talked like
fuck?
yeah. And I was like, so you missed that one. That was like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that was when we crossed and had the whole war with those. Never mind. You remember those nerds
Yeah.
from the other side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, the Nick thing, Nick, the way I ended up in the Goon Twitter, the Goon Zoom, I presume you're talking about.
Yeah.
The way I ended up in that was I got on Twitter for a while, and so COVID happened,
Yeah.
and all of my speeches got canceled for the whole year.
Yeah,
and that at that time it was like 25% of our annual. And so I was like, fuck it. I've never talked about I keep swearing.
Yeah.
I probably
No,
shouldn't.
you can. You can do that. I know you don't want to, but you're free to do it. This is not a family show, but it should be.
Okay.
Not though.
You should let the children listen to it.
I was like, screw it. I'll just, I've been holding back my political opinions for all these years, trying to keep jobs and stuff. And they all were gone. And I was like, screw it. I guess I'll just talk. And so I got on. And then a friend of ours found my Twitter account somehow. And he connected me to Nick. And that's how. So a friend of ours was like, holy shit, this guy that I knew from way back in the day, I don't want to like out him, because he was at a big government job, not CIA for God's sake, because every fraud that already thinks I'm CIA. It wasn't CIA. It was a different agency. Okay, and it wasn't FBI either. He
We're
found
narrowing
me
it down. Yeah.
and then plugged me. Yeah, we're getting tighter. And he
all right.
It was the
all right.
USDA, the
so
four-letter
that's how it
agency.
happened.
He's ATF. All right. He's ATF.
Yeah.
Let's just leave it at that.
May as well have been, given his proclivities. He probably should have.
Did he like to shoot dogs?
He liked I don't know if he doesn't like to shoot dogs. He likes another part of the ATF game.
Oh, okay.
All right. So now we know how Braxton made his way to X, Twitter, whatever the fuck it's called these days.
Yeah.
Does anyone actually call it X? I don't think anyway.
No,
I don't think so.
It's tough.
I'm still Twitter.
I've determined I'm going to be a boomer about it and call it Twitter forever.
That's the spirit.
Dude, I used to try to give this guy credit, and be like, all right, he spent $44 billion. Right. I can use the correct name,
Yeah.
And then he started acting like a dickhead. So I guess I'll just go back to
it. Was inevitable, though, right? Like everyone knew it was inevitable. Like it's just the dude acts in his own best interest. Can you blame him? No, because he's got all the money to do it. So
correct.
And then yeah. All right. So we've got the established. How did we arrive at Pasture Peaks Farms? How did that come about?
Man. How did that?
You were driving. You were a transporter of. You said you were taking.
Yeah.
Well, he was also raising beef at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. I bought. I think I was maybe 11 or 12 when I got my first couple cows, and those came from a guy my dad was taking care of cows for on a custom basis. Like he provided the pasture, and that guy paid my dad to take care of the cows and paid him to graze the cows on our land. And then that guy, he was an older guy that was retiring, and he was selling his cows. And there was a couple of these old like half pet cows that I was fond of, and he knew, and so he sold them to me for like, as an 11-year-old kid, it seemed like about $10 million, but I think it was like $400 or $500 or something like that for these two cows. So that's how I got my start into having cows. And then just, as I got older, started keeping more and more, and worked for several guys, three different guys in high school, haying, helping them take care of their cows, things like that. And kind of just have had my own small herd that I've grown more here in the last couple years. And then in the meantime, we've me and my dad have a custom farming business where we spray and do fertilizer for people, and spray with a ground sprayer and with a drone. And
drones.
And then I'll also driven a truck for probably the last 9 years off and on, kind of part-time throughout the winter and stuff.
So you say the farming piece of it. So that's where this is where all my questions come about. All right. So processing, right? How does that look? Do you have your own facility? Do you have access to it? What's the deal?
Yeah, there's there's a facility about 45 minutes
Okay.
away from where my place is that does the processing for us, and they're a USDA inspected facility. And I mean, it's probably I've been in maybe a half dozen, and I mean even like some big packing plants when I used to
Mhm.
haul hogs to big kill plants, and that one is probably the cleanest place and nicest place that I've ever been in. But so yeah, it's about 45 minutes, and they it's a meat locker that they do a lot of hogs and cattle on a custom basis for people in the area.
So do you do everything because you guys obviously have the website? Do you do everything by order or do
Yep.
you already have this done and you just got stuff waiting to ship? Or how's that go?
Yeah, and
Yeah. So we. Oh, good.
no,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. You go ahead.
Yeah. You go ahead. Yeah. Like so we. So yeah, we'll have animals processed, and then we'll go and pick it up, and then we'll update the inventory on the
Mhm.
website, and then we'll put together. Once we know we got a good idea of how many steaks and everything we're going to get off each animal. It kind of varies.
Yeah.
It might vary one or two steaks on each one, but then we'll put like those bundles together. Like we had some Father's Day bundles,
Yeah.
and then which we sold out of those, and then we've got a couple different bundles on the website. But yeah, we just as we get stuff back from uh from the slaughterhouse or the locker plant, whatever you want to call it, as we get it back from there, we update our inventory, and that's kind of how we
Cool.
do that because we don't really do any pre-orders or anything like that.
Okay. So that's
Yeah, and I would say, hold on, before you, I would say from my end, my wife and I. So I grew up uh, on a horse place, but of course we ran some cattle, but
Mhm.
mostly uncles that were more cattlemen. We did the horse. It's not that we had no cattle, but it's mostly uncles running cattle, and we do like work, like day work stuff. So
Mhm.
been around cattle since I'm like 6 years old or something. And I don't know. And when I met him, he brought out some beef, and I was like, "This, I think, is the best beef I've ever seen in my life. Like finish wise, I think this is the best beef I've ever seen."
Mhm.
And so that was part of. I would actually still. I think it's the best. I think he's a humble guy. I would tell you, I think him and his wife are the best beef finishers I've ever seen.
The fucking tri-tip was
Ever.
delicious. That
Dude,
tri-tip
they're
was fucking good.
they're incredible.
Good.
Yeah.
They're
That
really
was
good
good.
at what they do. So my wife and I had got out of cows. Not that we were ever like anything that I would call a producer, because if I'm running like 15 head at my house, I'm not, you know, doing work, hanging out with guys that are running 5,000
Yeah.
head. Like, I'm not a producer; they're producers, right?
Right.
So my whole entire world is not stuck in that. Like, I'm not a real producer.
Yeah.
Like, if my whole life is not this, then I don't know if I'm a producer. So anyway, I had gotten out of it, and then I met him, and we started talking. And the one thing I do think, I know what good beef looks like,
Mhm.
and that was and tastes like, obviously,
Yeah.
and that was fantastic beef. And that's kind of, I think, if I'm recalling all of this correctly, I think where our conversation started. So I was like, dude, you are good at this,
What was the first thing you had? What was the first cut? You remember?
No, I
Did
don't
did
remember.
we? I think we brought some ribeyes out. Maybe
It might
I
have been
think is what we brought
ribeyes.
out. I think we brought some ribeyes and we brought some burger, and yeah. And he's like, "Oh, this is really great." And I'm just like, "Dude, this is just what beef tastes like. I don't know. I
Dude.
don't know why you
So
think it's so special."
yeah,
you
but
know?
Braxton, you said an interesting thing, and I think we kind of crossed in the group talking about this, how it's finished or whatnot. But how do you actually do yours? Like, is it finished or is it grass fed to a point or is it all grain
it,
fed? Like,
it
There, there,
it's. Oh, go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. You go.
Okay, yeah, it's grass fed up to a point to probably to where they're like probably 700 to 800 pounds, and then that's when we put them in the feed lot, and then that's when we start finishing them, and so they'll be fed they'll be fed grain, they'll be fed corn mixed with a protein supplement, and then they'll have access to grass hay while they're in the feedlot finishing.
So you
In
said
the
seven
and
hundred
hold on,
pounds.
hold on. And that 700 pound mark is the vast majority of that animal's life, which is
Yeah,
why
that is.
you go on so many of these websites, they'll say grass fed.
Mhm.
It's like, well, they're all grass fed, dude. Well, they've ate grass up until the last like 60 to 90 days, man, of their
Yeah,
entire life.
yeah, yeah.
So,
That
well, how long does that take to get to 700 pounds?
700. They'll be about probably probably about 9 to 10 months old when
Oh,
they're
wow.
when they get to 700 pounds, and then um probably about it depends on the animal. Some have more frame, so they'll finish. It'll take longer for them to finish, to get finished and get the
Okay.
amount of fat cover we want on them. So it'll be between 90, probably about 75 to 100 days is about how long they're on feed.
And
And then that,
this is all breed dependent too, which is another
yeah,
thing that people try to avoid.
I got
yeah,
so many questions like
yep.
that. Because so Braxton, to go what he said, when someone's marketing something as grass fed, is that the exact same process he just described?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay,
Yeah.
so here's my thing because this is where I need some expertise from how you get because I'll be honest, I have never liked grass fed beef. I just
Hmm.
I don't
That's
like it.
what.
But this does
So
not taste like that at all.
Yeah.
This
here's what. Actually, I'll Tristan, you please take that. But I have opinions on this.
Yeah. So there's a lot of grass fed. There's a difference between grass fed and grain finished, and grass fed and grass finished. So like a lot of the grass finished beef you're gonna get, it's gonna be leaner. There's not gonna be much marble in it. There won't be as much fat
okay.
on it. And typically, so like most of ours, they're probably anywhere between 14 and 16 months old when they're slaughtered, and a lot of those grass finished calves are going to be close to 2 years, so close to 24 months, and
Mhm.
that's
and
kind of
then
where you get your difference.
and isn't it? I can't remember the exact month. It's either 22 or 24 months where you're not allowed, if you're USDA inspected, you're not allowed to keep the spine in that animal anymore. So all those premium cuts
uh
are ripped out.
yeah, I think yeah, it's I can't remember the exact. I'd have to look that up, but I think it's somewhere right in there around 24 months.
So is your stuff getting that inspection that he said? And yeah,
Yeah, yep, it is. Yep, it's USDA inspected.
is
Yep,
it
the
graded at
inspector.
all? Like the way they do the grades, or is that just something? Is that
So
just
we
for mass
we haven't
producers?
we haven't had it graded yet. That's a thing we need to talk, because I mean it costs extra to get it
Yeah.
graded,
Okay.
and which we got to be careful how we word it. Like all our stuff is prime equivalent. Like we
Yeah, I
don't
was
want
gonna
to
say
say
that
that
was like I
it's
said, there
we
was
don't want to say USDA prime just because
right.
I
It's a
don't know.
branding thing. Yeah,
I don't
I
know
got
if you
you.
could get in trouble for saying it when it's not
No,
Yeah.
officially branded,
no,
but yeah.
because
Yeah.
I shared the pictures. Fucking Voodoo Braxton. I shared it with him in one of the chats, and he's like, "Oh, Braxton out here selling California cuts," because that was the first time when I lived in California. It was the first time I ever came across tri-tip, and that's why I love it so much. And I used to get the prime tri-tips because Costco had them, and this one that I got from you guys, it's just not because I like the two of you, but it was better than any of the shit I ever had at Costco. That was graded prime. Like
Yeah.
it was that
Yeah,
fucking
I
good.
would. Can I let me say two things on that? We haven't had anything graded because of costs and all this, but
Yeah.
what I will tell you, if your butcher tells you, like when you talk to the guy that cut the animal, if he tells you that it was prime, he's better at the inspection or the grading process
Hmm.
than the USDA guy. I have actually seen USDA guys ask the butcher, and of course it's like, "Oh, what do you think?" But it's not.
Is it that
They're never gonna.
subjective or is it that obvious?
It's pretty obvious.
Yeah. Okay.
So if the cutter tells you that it's prime equivalent, then it's prime equivalent. Like
Right.
that
Yeah.
guy knows better than the grader. I guarantee it because he's cutting. I don't even know how many a year. He
Yeah.
knows what he's
He knows
looking
what he's
at.
looking at.
Yeah, like where we're at, like where we have ours processed at, I I would probably say they're they're processing probably between probably 40 to 70 a week, depending on the week of beef.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and then, I think they do hogs and lamb on top of that. So, I mean, these guys are
Mm.
they're seeing a lot of they're seeing a lot more cuts, and they've been in the business. The guy who, the guy who owns it now bought it from his dad, and his dad started the business in the late 60s or early 70s. So, I mean, the people we use, they've been in the business for 50 plus years.
And they're
So
Americans,
Yeah.
unlike certain
Yeah.
other people.
We are our processing part of the supply chain, it is invincible to ice raids. More
Yeah.
I love
than
that.
we can say for somebody.
I love that. So
If ice walks in there, they're gonna see a bunch of white dudes go like, "Hey, what's up?"
so I got two follow-ups that tie directly into that, right? So because I don't know how accurate it is, but I've read years ago that they say less than 3% of the world's beef can be graded prime, right? So what creates that difference? And are you able to, as you decide when it's time to go, are you able to tell because of just how much experience you have, or is it something that every time you open this up, it's like a big fucking Christmas Day surprise?
No, yeah, at this point, I mean, I was probably 16 or 17 when I started feeding, a few calves every year on my own and selling them. What's kind of a popular thing is people selling to people who buy a half or a whole or a
Yeah.
quarter, and then you take it to the butcher for them, and then they tell the butcher how they want it cut. But so I've been doing that for a few years now, and then it'd be probably about 12 years. I think I started that when I was a sophomore in high school.
Mhm.
Not trying to make Braxton feel old like he thinks I am every
He's
time
older
I
than I
say something
am.
like that.
I'm older
Chris.
than
Yeah, oh, he is,
Braxton.
you are?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I just look younger because you
Oh
know,
yeah, I
I,
bet you
I
do.
drink bourbon and take care of myself.
Oh, okay.
But
Bro,
yeah, and then
you look like the villain in Die Hard movies, dude.
Oh, that's good. Sometimes I get Vigo from GI Jane, but I'll take the villain.
dude, that's a
When I bust out
compliment.
the
Yeah.
mustache, yeah, I gotta get the mustache.
Telling him he looks like Alan Rickman, like, oh, that's
Oh
a
my god.
compliment.
The tism. How could I possibly have predicted your tism would go all the way into 1990s movies? I couldn't have
Yeah,
predicted that.
movies that came out when you were a boy and came out 5 years before I was born, but that's minor details.
Yeah.
But um, but so I mean, yeah, with the, I guess get back on track here. Like you
Fucking
asked me
great,
before.
dude. Also, by the way, we're supposed to be on the same team over here, man. What the
Got
fuck?
friendly fire going off.
Fratricide. Good old fratricide.
So, but yeah, I mean, just kind of, you can tell by, if you've fed enough of them, you can tell when they're ready to go. And the feed, the
Well,
ration formulation is a big part of it too.
But you don't
oh
know
yeah,
what you're gonna
actually,
get when you open it up, right? Like you don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
hold
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't know if what he's saying is right, Tristan. I'm talking to you right here.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about point of the hip and then feed ladies.
Yeah.
So talk about those two things, like the actual shape and makeup, and then what feed
Yeah.
lady
So, I
does.
mean, you can look at a steer, if you've done a steer or, if you're feeding a heifer, it's the same for either one. You can look at them and you can tell like how much fat they have on them by you look at their hip, and right there where their tail starts, you'll start to see two bulges of fat. And when you see that, that's how they're pretty much ready. And then, when they're filled in down on their gut and in their ribs and stuff. that's kind of another indicator. And then you can
Yeah,
look up front where their brisket and stuff is.
the more
And
you look at them, the easier it gets to see, right?
yeah, it's hard for me, for me to explain, but like, because for me,
You just
I
know.
know it when I see it. Yeah, I don't even think
But you
about it.
know
I
when
can
they're
just look
ready.
at
You
it.
don't you
Yeah.
can't look at them in that way though and know like, hey, this is prime equivalent or whatever. Or
Yeah, I mean you don't necessarily know, but like for the genetics that we're feeding, we know with we're feeding basically the same
yeah.
type of cattle, so we know how they're gonna grade. And
Okay.
with the feed rations, we know we feed them a certain way at different stages of growth when we put them in the feed lot for what they need to not only grow, put frame on, but to put fat and muscle on. And my wife is the one who does all those rations. She owns and runs a feed, which that's where I'm at right now, is our feed store. But she
Cool.
owns and runs a feed store that um, a lot of there's several feed lots around here, and a lot of the farmers get all their feed ingredients
Okay.
through her, and she deals with a lot of fat cattle and stuff like that.
This may be
Yeah, and so
dumb.
Yeah.
she's no, it's hold on, let me preempt
Yep.
this just
Yep.
once. She's a feed his wife is a feed scientist, so she knows his stuff, and we're about to haul some uh animals over his way and see how they finish out there.
Mhm.
Because high trust level and you know all of that. But um it's not an exact science yet, but it's a pretty solid science, I guess, is what the way I would say it is.
Yeah.
Like we're pretty sure, because there can be differences, like you and I talk about privately, like fescue versus being out here on crested wheat. And
Yeah.
so there's some points of not sure, wonderment, I
Yeah,
guess.
the
But
the type of cattle that are where Braxton's at are going to be different where I'm at. Like here, a cow calf pair through the summer, or through the spring, summer, and then whenever you'll typically, if they're spring calves, you'll take bales off the cow in around Labor Day, and then you'll graze the cow till into October-ish, or whenever you run out of grass. But you can do that on like an acre and a half to 2 acres here. And what is it where you're at, like 100
Oh shit.
yeah,
acres per cow calf pair?
on good acreage, you're going to be 35.
Yeah.
On
So
everything else, you're 100 plus.
yeah. So that it just takes a little bit different type of animal where he's at versus here. They're all, I think they're predominantly Angus where you're at, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For when I was a kid, Herefords were really big because
Yep.
Herefords are like hardier through the winter. They
Yep.
they'll like hold weight a little better. But yeah, everyone's kind of went to Angus, and there's some guys that bitch about that we should have stayed on. Well, I think this is partly why you see like the Bali stuff out here,
Yeah.
is guys trying to like split the difference.
Yep.
There's some guys that bitch and say we got sort of psyoped into this Hereford thing, or excuse me, into this Angus thing, when we should
Mhm.
have stayed on the Hereford side. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, so you got to manage both ends of it.
Yeah, there's just the type of cattle I have and the type of cattle that are there are they're not completely different, but they're just, to survive on different types of forages, there's small differences between them.
This may
Yeah, and
be
then like we've talked about before, that friend of mine that went from South Dakota to Missouri, and his whole
Hmm.
herd was on fescue, and he said he had like a 60% breed back rate, and that
Yeah.
was almost broken. Which I mean, it would, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not on I'm not producing cow. I like, my income is not dependent on
right.
producing calves right now. But if I had a 60% breed rate, and it was, I'd be bankrupt.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, yeah, it'd be the equivalent of somebody working a job somewhere and they come in and say, "Hey, we're just going to take a third of that money we were going to pay you." And you're just not going to get that.
yeah, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
dude.
This may be a really dumb question because I think about it in
Yep.
terms of hey, a horse who wins the fucking Triple Crown can go stud forever and produce really great horses that are just like him, right? Are the
Yep.
cows the same? Like you produce a good cow, are these cows all related to each other, or do you just get new cows in and they
Yeah.
okay.
Yep,
Yeah,
they're related. I get
Okay.
different bulls in, because I mean you don't
Okay.
want to breed, you don't want to breed
Yeah, it's total foreign language to me right now. So I'm just like, wow,
father,
that's
you
crazy.
don't want to read
Okay.
fathers to daughters, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. We cycle, we breed different bulls or whatever, but it's basically all the same line of genetics. Like I've got
So that's how you can kind of control
there's
this, what you produce,
yeah.
right? Okay.
I
Yep,
would
yep,
also
and
say.
that's
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
oh
ahead.
no, go ahead. Yeah, you go.
I would also just only say that this idea that Triple Crown winner produces a bunch of Triple Crown winners has never played out ever in the history of horses. Like, there's been a couple, a
Well,
handful.
isn't what's his name? The dude that Secretariat, the one that won
Yeah,
like a million?
Secretary. I knew you were
He's
going to say
produced like
Secretary.
all these like
Yeah, he was the best. Yeah,
he's produced a ton of
yeah,
champions.
yeah. He was
I
the
I'm only
best.
know.
saying
But
I'm not saying it works. I'm just saying is that the thinking like, hey, we have this really great bull, for example, and so we can produce really great bulls just like him if we just
Yeah,
and
I mean,
that's
yeah,
why,
that
like I said,
works.
that's why I
Yeah.
prefaced it by saying this may be a really stupid question. So Braxton just proved it was a really stupid question. Thank you.
well, you're from the
Yeah.
mid Europe,
Yeah.
so I expect it.
Yeah. Which him bringing up Secretariat, I know all about that horse. I watched the documentary that they released that John
He knows what
Malkovich
I'm
was in.
talking about.
There we go. Yeah, yeah. Did you know Secretariat had a genetic defect, quote unquote defect that he actually had in the large heart?
I did not.
Yeah, he had a larger heart than all the others horses. So
Did that help or
it helped for racing, but it didn't help for longevity.
gotcha?
Um, but yeah, he was,
So he
yeah.
cheated. That's what you're saying. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean,
I'm just
kinda. Seriously, like
He was
sorta. Yeah,
he's probably on he was probably on HGH, horse growth
yeah,
hormones.
absolutely
horse growth hormone.
guaranteed.
I would love
Back
to
in
be on some
those days,
horse growth
dude,
hormone right about now.
dude, my dad was using horse growth hormone when I was a kid. So,
Oh, dude, you were
like,
over in Iraq the same time. Do you remember like half of the fucking SF dudes and all the ones supporting them were all on that shit? They'd come through the Baghdad airport and be like, "Yeah, we're going to the gym. Like, we're using this horse shit." I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know how safe
equipoise
that
you're
is,
talking
bro.
about.
But okay.
Equipoise, equipoise, equipoise. That was a steroid, and honestly, probably was safe
Really?
because it
Okay.
was plant derived. It was plant derived testosterone,
Oh,
so it
okay.
probably was safe. And the reason it was plant derived, I think it was equipoise. The reason it was plant derived is because it was harder for them to detect on the test. That's a whole different conversation, but that's why it was like that.
It all tracks now. But no, I remember a buddy of mine showed up. I hadn't seen him in 6 months before the invasion. He shows up in Iraq in like July or whatever in June. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck happened to you? He's like, oh, he's on these horse shits. All right. Good for you, man. Like, I'm over here wasting away getting skinny and you just put on 30 pounds of muscle. But all right.
Recruiting
He walks
people and
in looking
shit.
like Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I try and get back on track here with some questions. Do you
Okay.
have any like what are the regulations that you have to confront or confronted prior to you guys even getting into this? Is this like something that is a huge barrier to someone who wants to get into it, or is this stuff you just navigated because you've been doing it forever?
Not like on the side of selling the meat, there's really not. Basically,
When you say
if you
selling to
find,
me, you mean wholesale, right?
yeah, yeah, wholesale, whatever, yeah, yeah, That's-
Like
yeah.
let's clarify this because I know where this is going.
When we're selling beef, the basically what you need to do to be able to resale or to retail it is to have it killed at a locker that's USDA inspected.
Gotcha.
And, the locker's got to be inspected, and um, a uh, a USDA inspector is present when they kill, and I think when they cut, and then they take a sample from, I don't know what parts they take samples from, but just to be sure that there's no kinds of drug residues like any antibiotics or any kind of thing like that any kind of medications that they might have been given to them,
Mhm.
and they send that off, and before the lockers can release it to you, they have to get back a negative test on that. So that's like, sometimes we run into, normally we know how many days it's going to be, like about 10 days from when we take steers to the locker to when we get them back. But then sometimes, the government drags its feet, and it's 14 or 20, just because, they get
That's
paid whether or not
per
they test ours.
that's per one.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Per animal. Yeah. So, I mean,
Okay.
sometimes the test comes back quick and sometimes it doesn't.
Mhm.
It just kind of depends on, you're working with the speed of the government. But yeah, so people that market their stuff as antibiotic free, like, well, if it's been killed in a USDA inspected facility, it's tested and it's proven to be, all of it is proven to be antibiotic free, I
So
guess.
it doesn't even
But
it's just a
that,
marketing thing at this point, is what you're saying.
yeah, it's just a
Yeah.
marketing thing. Well, it's um, like a chicken. They'll be from hatched as a baby chick to killed and processed in 6 or 7 weeks. So, they
Oh
say
wow.
it's not been fed any growth hormones. Well, they've not ever fed them growth hormones. I guess. Well, as I say that, there's someone who's going to fact check me and be like, "Well, actually, in
Actually.
1970, actually, for this 2 month period in 1973, Tyson chicken fed growth hormones into the chickens." But it's not a common practice right now. But yeah, basically, you got to have it for resale, or for retail sale. You have to have it killed in a USDA inspected facility,
Okay.
and really, and then there's some kind of small dumb shipping regulations, like shipping with dry ice. You can only have so
Yeah.
much dry
Had
ice
had
and
that
stuff like
how it
that.
showed up.
And
Okay.
yeah, because I mean, if you're shipping air freight, because it's like, I think 5 pounds is the limit. I in each package. I don't know why,
Yeah, I
but
saw you guys had to write the amount on the box of how heavy it
yeah,
was or
yeah, and
some
you have
shit.
to, and the labels are only in kilograms, so I'm having to
Oh
convert
man.
freedom
Yeah.
units
What
to
kind of shit is that?
kilograms, and
What is that
yeah, I
about?
don't know.
Sounds like Braxton's got a new axe to grind on Twitter with some fucking politician that he can find, which leads me into my
Yeah.
next question. Do you guys like, as Pasture Peaks Farms and others like you, do you guys have a lot of advocates at the local and federal level, or is this something that
Dude.
they kind of frown upon since you guys aren't these massive
Do
producers? Or
you want
Well,
do you want to handle the
well,
advocate?
the one, yeah, the Cattlemen's Association, yeah,
I
they
didn't say
are.
that. You said
They yeah
that.
they're not a fan of guys like us necessarily,
or it's
because
not?
they want to. So there's a program called the beef check off, that for every animal sold, every beef animal, and there's a check off for every species, but for every animal sold, you have to pay $1 to the beef check off, because they're going to use they're going to use that for marketing for us, to try to reach
Oh, so this
reach
is your
untapped
union
crowds.
card. Nice. This is
Yeah, this is like a union thing, and they got a lot of backlash on Twitter here this winter, because they posted a thing that said, "Remember, if you're selling animals privately, you need to make sure to pay your checkoff thing." And everybody, you can
and
imagine
these
what everyone's
fuck,
reaction to that
man. Where
was.
does this shit come
and
from?
these effing dickheads, the marketing they do is like, go to AM 700 and play ads back to us saying, "Hey, you guys are doing a great job." It's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you guys are doing amazing work." They're not playing ads in San Francisco or some shit.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
playing them back at us.
Y-
It's fake
You
as hell.
you go to a county or state fair, they're like, "Yeah, everybody should eat beef," or like the pork
Yeah.
checkoff. I don't have an Instagram with the pork checkoff yet, but they're
Yet.
they're
The night is
they're like,
young.
"Hey, you need to eat pork," and it's like, I think people know that that's a thing because I don't know if you saw the building they just walked out of, but there was 400 calves in there. I think they've got what's going on here.
Yeah.
But and they have posters up at like sale barns and stuff like that telling you to eat beef, and it's like, yeah, I think these guys are probably eating beef already. Let's go to
Yeah.
some areas like San Francisco.
Yeah, and when he says sell barns, he means like where a guy's going to buy stuff that he needs for his operation, one way or the
Right.
other. Like whether
Right.
Yep.
it could be a
It's
bunch of different
unavoidable.
things, but
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah,
he
and
needs
that
for him. It's not like
Yeah.
the consumer is
Who
not a
needs?
yeah,
fucking
Yeah.
sell barn.
yeah,
Right.
it's where,
Got you.
live animals are
Nobody's
sold.
showing up and
Like,
be like, "Oh, wow, I had no idea there was Pasture Peak Farms. This is amazing."
yeah, yeah, that's where I would say like sale barns are where a majority of the cattle get sold, and like a lot of the calves when they get weaned off the cow, that's where a lot of the big feedlots or even smaller feedlots will buy cattle to put on feed is at sale barns.
I think you're probably right because you're in a place like higher density. Out here,
Yep.
I think it's more
Yeah.
brokered, but I
Yeah.
do think you're right. I'm not trying
Yeah.
to.
Where he's at, like where there's operations that are 5,000 head, they've got a buyer they work with where
Yeah.
all 4 or 5,000 head of calves, they might not go to the same place, but they've got a buyer that brokers cattle for them. And, they'll call that guy up and yeah, we've got this many. And then they come up with a price or however it works.
And
I've not ever done it that way.
I think a lot of them are contracted too. I think
Yeah.
it's like a market rate contract, so it's what the market rate
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that you know.
Yep. Yes. Yeah, I think so. Yep. Yeah. And then, from there, when they go to the feedlots, a lot of those feedlots, whether they're, like, JBS's feedlots that are like freaking 50,000 head, or
Oh, wow.
they're this farmer feeder that's got, well, like my neighbors down the road, they got a few hundred head of cows and they feed all their own out and they market them
Yeah.
themselves to a region, kind of a smaller regional packing plant. But there's buyers that come out and make deals with them and put cattle under contract for those. So,
Hey, let's do the Costco beef, JBS, and
oh
Packers
yes.
thing. Let's do that.
So
Sorry,
Costco,
Eric, I didn't mean to hijack, but
so
let's just
No, no,
do
no.
Costco,
this.
This is good. I
we're a
wouldn't have
good.
thought of it. So,
I guess I'm not gonna say all of it because I've not been in a Costco inside of the last 5 or 6 years because I don't shop for groceries. My wife does that. But most of the meat is predominantly imported from Australia and New Zealand,
I see
is
that
what you're
with the
going to get from.
lamb. Why
Yep,
is that
yep, the
just in
lamb.
general in America? Why is lamb from New Zealand so
Eh,
prevalent? I
I
don't get
have
that.
no idea because
Yeah.
there's several lamb producers. I mean, we
Okay.
up until last year, we like
I
I
love lamb, and
personally
I
had a
can never
flock of
find it
sheep.
anywhere from here.
Well,
But,
you'll have to hit me up because
all right.
Curious.
my dad, yeah, my dad's a pretty, I'm not gonna say
Okay.
big, but he's a decent medium-sized lamb producer. And yeah,
Nice.
I don't know. I assume it's because they can get it cheaper, or it may not be much cheaper, but for a corporation like that, they can get it 2 cents a pound cheaper. So I
That adds
suppose they
up. Yeah.
figure
Yeah, it
I,
they
adds.
figure over how many.
Right.
I wonder if consistency isn't a thing too. Um,
That Yeah, that might be that there's because I mean,
Mm.
the sheep operations in Australia and New Zealand, there'll be tens of thousands of sheep there, where probably the average one here is
Less
like three
regulated.
or four hundred.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably less
I just always
regulation.
imagine like I'm like, what's the shipping like to send some of that over to here? Like it just seems
Yeah, I
great.
don't. Well,
they're putting them on boats that are stocked with reefers,
Yeah.
and the
Mhm.
reefers are I mean it's just frozen meat. So
All right.
Yeah, and they do. I don't know. They do a lot of live export with cattle and sheep out of Australia and New Zealand, and I don't know if that's stuff that goes to Asia. I wouldn't imagine it comes here because
Mm.
a ship, to ship a whole boatload of sheep from Australia is going to take, I don't know how, a couple weeks, 3 weeks probably to get here. So I'm doubting they're doing that. But yeah, that's it. All comes over
you
by boat.
So
and
you're
I
saying
think
their beef
current
comes from there as well?
The
mostly.
I think, yeah, I think so, doesn't it? I think a lot of their
I
beef
think
does.
I think Costco does, but isn't our current setup that it has to be frozen cut? Uh,
I think so.
I
Uh,
don't know if that means you can't have like quarters and halves, but I think it has to be frozen
What does that mean?
because JVS, I'm sorry, has a huge packing plant, so it must be, but doesn't it have to be?
so
It can't be live cattle coming across the border for JVS, right? Just
no,
for as
so
an example.
they bring. I don't think they bring live cattle for slaughter. They bring a lot of. Yeah, like so they'll import beef, and that is like when he's saying that it's cut up in quarters or halves, that's like, like they're importing frozen sides of beef
Okay.
that then it'll go to some facility here that cuts stuff up and packages stuff to, put it in the styrofoam and plastic covered package that you'll see
Yeah.
there, at Costco or wherever you're buying it. Yeah, there is a lot of uh I should have looked this up to know off the top of my head, but a lot of the lean beef that is in the US is imported from South America because like JBS is
I
one of
hate
the,
lean
they
beef.
call
I hate lean
yeah,
beef. I don't want. Give me fat. I want fat.
I don't understand it. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
either.
that's like the shit that is in the tube that is, you buy for $4 a pound that everybody, not everybody, but some people are giving us shit on Twitter about. That
Yeah.
like, well, I can go to Costco and buy this stuff
Oh,
in the tube for $4, and that's like, okay,
cool.
dude.
Go for it, right? I
All
guess.
right, it doesn't
But
it
dude,
doesn't sound like you were gonna buy from us anyway,
but
and
Right.
dude, hold
it's gonna
on,
be shit.
Eric, uh, let me ask you,
Yeah.
how many? So if you were buying burger in a tube, how many animals would you expect to be in that tube?
How big's the tube? Like a foot?
Like let's say I pick a poundage. I don't really
Yeah.
care.
Honestly, I wouldn't even fucking have a place to even reference as a starting point. I
I,
have no idea.
Now this I don't have like exact data for this, but if you're buying like a 1 pound tube at Walmart or
Uh-huh.
Costco, the facility can't actually tell you how many animals are in there, but I mean 70 would not
Oh.
be
And
would
that's
not
It's
we were
be
having
like
a conversation, I think, a few weeks back, right? You were saying like your ground beef is from one specific cow, right? That's what you were, I think.
yeah,
correct.
Okay.
yeah, everything is from,
One
yeah, like,
specific animal.
yeah, like if you order ground beef from us, like if we would have sent you ground beef with your tri-tip, that would have been the the steer that your tri-tip was from would have been the same steer you were getting your burger from.
Okay. And
And like,
what goes into ground beef? Where does that usually come from? What cut?
that's
Where
just
at?
all the cuts that don't
Everything
make like
just
steaks and roasts. Yeah.
okay.
Just the stuff that, like, when they'll cut up, um like they'll cut ribeyes and then they get
Mhm.
to the end of the prime rib, and
Yeah, that little.
they get to where they're too small to make steaks out of, then
Yeah.
that gets ground up, and it's the trim pieces basically,
Okay.
that because I mean there's waste in there, or
Well,
um
the cutter has to be efficient.
Yeah,
yeah,
he's got
the
no
cutter,
yeah. Yeah.
the cutter's got to be efficient. And then there's certain cuts that, we there's like a whole list of certain kinds of roasts you can get that we don't get because I don't, you can only sell so many roasts, or people only,
Right. I
only know us so
understand.
many
Yeah.
kinds. Like, well, like the tri-tip, that was not ever a thing I'd heard of until
California, man, I'm with you.
yeah,
No idea. That's
until
why I was out there.
saw it on the internet, and
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell is
So
a
you've never
tri-tip?
had that.
I've had it once, like after I think the last beef we got the tri-tips, and it's good.
But yeah, I was gonna
I
say,
mean,
what do you
it's
think?
good, but yeah, I thought it was good, but I'd
Oh,
never
it's
heard of it,
funny,
and
man.
that's
That was
that's
like
like
every Sunday with my daughter. That's all we did. Tri-tip Sundays when I was out
yeah.
in California. Like she loved cooking it, loved grilling it, loves the way it tastes. And it lasts
Hmm.
like I just finished it up this morning. Like that thing, it was like 2.9 pounds, I think something. And that's usually like the perfect
Yeah.
size, like 2.5 pounds.
Yeah.
You never have to use a timer. You know exactly how long it takes to grill it. Like
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know why it's so big out in California. I don't know if it's anywhere else, Braxton, on the West Coast, but I'd never come across it until I was out there.
I think it's starting to become a thing, nation with, every
Yeah.
I'm not going to say everybody's got a smoker, but more people have a smoker
That's a
and
good
just
idea.
the
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
My brother's got a smoker in there. So that's all he does now. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah, I think smokers, honestly, Traeger, we owe
yeah.
a debt of gratitude to Traeger because
Yeah.
Traeger made the everyday guy into a guy that could actually cook some pretty
Yeah.
good cuts. And it used to be a
Yeah.
thing you'd have to go to like a barbecue restaurant for,
Right.
and the
Mhm.
everyday dude can do it now.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Well, that's like we've got, I don't know if it's Traeger or not, which that doesn't matter what brand it is, but that's what my wife, she does. Like she'll smoke brisket or tri-tip or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've not done it just because I'm like, that's her thing. Yeah, I don't really care.
That's
It's
a
just not
brisket's
one
an
of,
art because you got to cut the fat and all that.
yeah.
That's a little different. Yeah.
Yeah.
That takes
Yeah.
some
She,
talent.
she smoked yeah. Didn't she smoke a
Yeah.
brisket when you guys were out, Braxton? I think.
I'm pretty
I
sure
think
she
so.
did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. But I mean that, before if you had a smoker, you had to like build a fire in the
Yeah.
firebox and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
In this, you can like you can control it from an app on your phone
Yeah.
and see
I
the
know. Yeah.
temperature
My
and
brother
everything
does some
Right.
like
crazy
that.
shit. He just hangs out in the house and looks on his phone and when it's time to go out and does his thing. So yeah.
Yeah, my brother's the same way about
Yeah.
smoking stuff. And I'm like, no, okay. And
See?
he's like telling me, yeah, I marinated this for
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
2 hours and 43 minutes. I didn't put it 2 hours and 44 minutes because
Yeah.
then it would have
Yeah.
not been
Same,
any
same
good or
shit,
whatever.
man.
Like,
Same
I'm
deal.
like, oh, okay. You might as well be speaking Chinese to me, dude. I have no
Yeah.
idea what you're talking about.
I'm just he did something the other day, and I'm just like, dude, you still got like, you really have 5 more hours to go? Like, like,
Yeah,
I
I
don't have
know,
that
it's
patience.
crazy.
Yeah, I haven't quite got to the smoker level yet, but it's on the agenda. It's on the to-do list. What's the goal? Because I know you're doing this right now. You're having fun. You're selling some stuff. But do you guys have a plan in mind, or is it just like do this till the wheels fall off, or get bigger, stay small? What do you want to do?
Kind of basically, I think kind of my goal with it anyway is to be able to market all the beef that I raise and any beef that Braxton raises to be able to market that through
Mm,
Pasture Peaks, as well as we've uh like I know Braxton's got a couple neighbors that feed cattle where he's at, or feed their own cattle, and then I've got a couple that also, and it's if the demand grows beyond what we can supply ourselves, if we can also market some beef or maybe get the animals from them at that 700 pounds when they 800 pounds when they come off grass, and feed them and market them that way, and then our neighbors can make some more money and supply quality beef to people at
yeah,
a reasonable price. I
yeah,
guess that's kind of my goal with it.
yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would
What about you,
I would
Braxton?
agree. The goal is, at least from my perspective, is to, use platforms that we're given to help my friends and neighbors make a little more money
Mm,
uh, for the work they've been doing forever, and then kind of, you know, educate people and help them understand uh, sort of what's what. So primary is help my friends and neighbors,
hmm
and then secondary is kind of like help educate people to understand what they're like when they're being marketed to and when the
Yeah.
thing is real.
Right.
Yeah,
So
because most people don't know beyond what they see on the internet,
Yeah.
and who knows where they're seeing that, where that comes from. I mean, some of the shit people see, and kind of you can tell it's like, oh, you found that from like a PETA propaganda page that is not by PETA in name, but it's like, oh, that's where that came from. Like just this isn't a beef example, but like with sheep, we dock tails on sheep, and like there's like people think we're out there like cutting these things tails off with a machete when they're like 100 pounds and 2 years old and half bleed them out, you know. That's so I mean there's all these myths and rumors and stuff
Yeah.
like that that come from all this shit that people put out.
Yeah, and those same people own a corgi or something like that
Yeah,
that hasn't,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. Well, I know my two corgis have given me the experience to be an expert on this.
My, I am curious because one thing popped into my mind. There's like literally 2 miles down the road, there's this butcher shop, and they specialize in like exotic cuts, right? They have fucking kangaroo steak, which I still haven't got yet. I'm still talking myself up to that. I don't know if have either of you had a kangaroo steak?
I
I
have
didn't know
not
that was a
eaten a
thing.
kangaroo steak.
What'd you say, Braxton?
I have not, sir.
Okay, I think that's going to be next, and that's what we'll have a conversation about next time. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I guess my question is
Kangaroo.
because they sell elk, and I know Braxton, you've.
Those elk, if you're eating an elk in the United
That's my
States of
question.
America,
Yeah.
it got imported here from either New Zealand or Australia, almost certainly.
How the fuck does that? How is that? So that goes back to my like the advocate piece. Like, so you do like I know where you reside, what's
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like there's elk. I've driven through it. Like they're fucking everywhere. So what is the
There's
barrier? Like, or is
it
that
goes
something
all
you
the
want to
way.
do as well someday? Is be able to do
No,
that?
no, no, it's illegal. It goes all the way back to market hunting. It's illegal in the United States to sell wild game for
Right.
profit. Now it can be processed, and so there was a carve out for Indians. These are drum hitters, not bridge hitters.
I was gonna say
Like,
dots or feathers. Which one?
um,
You mean Native Americans, right? You got to be politically correct.
so there's a carve out for them. If they're making like artwork and stuff, they can sell that. So there's a carve out in there for that. But as far as like meat goes, no, you can't sell. You can't sell uh, elk
Is
or deer or
is that forever, or does anyone have a desire to get to overturn
yeah.
that, or is that
So
just kind of
a recent thing that has happened. I think it was 23 or 24, somewhere pretty recently. Illinois argued against the federal government on this exact deal, but it was kind of on behalf of local meat
Mhm.
cutters
Okay.
because they would get stuck with, some guy that shot a whitetail or whatever and then
Yeah.
didn't come pick it up.
Okay.
And they would just be stuck with it. And so they would drop it off they would drop it off to a homeless shelter
All right. Of course.
and they would just have to eat that expense. So then the government, I think it was Illinois, argued on behalf of the cutters and was like, "Hey, this is crazy. The whole point of this restriction is you can't, mass market to the American citizen, but we're already giving this to American citizens, so we've already breached
Right.
that point of the
Okay.
deal."
Hmm.
Um, and I think they won. I'll have to dig up this case. I think they won. Um, I don't know what that means I don't know if I like this or not yet. I like it a lot for everybody on the other side of the divide. I don't know if I like it for out here yet.
Yeah, well, because that's
I
what I was
guess
going
is
to
what
ask
I
you,
would say.
because I feel like, especially my time that I just spent in Montana earlier in the year, spending time in California, spending time in Washington State, seeing what's down there, hearing what you just said, like if you see that, it's definitely come from another country. But I was under the assumption that maybe it's because of what you just said, like someone's fighting court cases somewhere, and that maybe it's opening up these markets, and that we're actually getting American elk or whatever. Because
Dude,
I can drive through Washington State on the way to Mount Rainier and pull off to some shack and get elk burgers or moose burgers and all. And I would assume that they're from Washington State or maybe
Yeah,
Canada.
but they're
Right? Like,
but they're not.
that's
And
wild
also
to me.
I
That's
would
fucking nuts.
at least weren't. Maybe they are now. I should be careful about how I say that. Uh, also, I think so. Rogan, who seems like a really cool guy, and I'm not trying to like shit on him. Uh,
Yeah, he does all the elk hunting and
I've
all the
also
time.
I've always thought that like the argument that there's more domestically raised tigers in Texas than are extant in the wild was like the gayest thing in the world. Just like, okay, we have,
We got our first gay drop. All right, here we are.
dude, okay, that's great. We have these tigers, but they're not even fucking tigers, dude. They're, they're,
I got my
these
tiger
are
right here. There he is. Look at this tiger, this killer.
cats are gay. You have toxoplasmosis. Uh, I just think I think it's a bit of, I don't want to call it a sin, but like to try to argue that like, oh well, we have, and Rogan never did this, but to try to argue that like, oh, we have all these cats here, it's like, well, they're not tigers, man. They're some perverted clown show of a tiger. This is fucking ridiculous. Like I don't know. I don't like this thing. And I know I'm gonna get called a hippie and a fucking retard and all the rest of it, but I don't like this kind of thing, man.
So
I don't like
are
it.
you bringing that point to keep elk, etc., off of the market?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The elk farms are the reason there are elk farms out here is they sell to some fucking retard that wants to, I keep cursing and I shouldn't.
There's nothing wrong with it, man. Passion. I love it.
Some idiot that wants to like try to tell somebody he killed like this 430-inch bull,
Yeah.
etc. But the real purpose of the elk farm is to raise antlers for people in China because they believe that there's some aphrodisiac in the antlers, so they grind it up and sell off. And no, I hate this. I don't like the attempted domestication of some of the. I don't like the. In some sense, this is like the nerfing the U.S. and no, I don't like it.
Here you go. We're not getting elk. You guys are not selling elk, is what I hear at Peak or
No,
No, no,
Pasture Peaks Farms. There will be no elk
no,
on the menu on the
no,
website.
no. We're
and
not selling deer either. There's too many of those here as it is.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I do have that question. Like I get what Braxton's saying in terms of elk and
Yep.
game and all, but with the prevalence of hunting and like the amount of deer, why is that part of the same thing? Like it's just not something that's going to ever be sold, or is this like an advocacy that's going to keep it from ever appearing?
Well, like so
Because you'll
here,
see venison on some menus, right? Like you go to certain restaurants, you'll see venison. But Braxton,
yeah,
that venison you're telling me is not from the States?
no.
No. Okay.
yeah, and like here we have there's a program that I think what is the Hush program. I think it's Help Us Stop Hunger, where you can donate your deer to
Okay.
there's certain lockers that process deer during hunting season, and then that goes to I think that ends up like to state prisons and like in some
Prisons.
and ends up yeah that's it yeah the unless they've changed this the state prisons in
No,
Iowa
you're right.
end up
You're right.
yeah
It's
yeah
true in other states.
yeah the state prisons in Iowa end up eating a lot of deer, and which I'm sure that is probably the most disgusting deer you could probably ever eat since it's prison food. But
Well,
and
we
then
wouldn't even know because they're the only ones getting the opportunity. I don't know.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, they might be having gourmet five-star
They
meals up
might.
in
You
there.
might
I
have to
don't
go to
know.
jail in
I,
Iowa and find out. Do an
I doubt
undercover
it.
special. Shit.
I doubt it.
All right, I had one more question. This comes
White, I would, and let me just say this because I know this is going to get clipped by somebody. Whitetail and migratory species like mule deer and elk are completely different animals, and that's take a lot longer conversation to parse out. So let me just say
Yeah,
that, and then let's go on to the next thing.
yeah.
okay. So I had a question from Chief. He's in one of those chats, but he wants to know your opinion on why the best beef on the planet comes from the Rocky Mountain West and the Plain States.
I think I text Tristan about this. I used to think that.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if I still believe that. So I
Well, I
actually
mean,
think I think
the
they finish beef. I think they finish
yeah,
beef better than we do. At
yeah,
least his
the
operation, I think,
the
does.
best beef in the world is finished somewhere between the Mississippi and the Missouri rivers, which that's only one place. That's Iowa. Yeah. It's a ways from the Rocky Mountains. It's like roughly 14, 15 hours from the Rocky Mountains, I think. Last I checked.
I
I like it. I like this. Shots fired again. Firing
Yeah,
shots.
I don't there's a reason we're trying to haul cattle out there because I think they
Yeah.
do it better than we can do it here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And the feed cost is a lot
feed
cheap,
costs of it.
Mm.
Yeah, feed ingredient like out there, there's not a lot of I mean they can get the feed ingredients you need to make the rations out there, but it's a lot more readily available here where they're trucking stuff from who knows how far, or if somebody grows corn out there, the cost to do that is just
Yeah.
is ridiculously high. And here it's a lot cheaper, and yeah, that's the main reason for
Talk
bringing beef
talk
from there to finish here.
talk about spraying corn.
What about spraying corn? The spraying
Uh
corn with atrazine
a
or
lot of people
spraying?
think corn are getting hit with atrazine at the ear level and stuff.
Oh yeah, so like the corn when it's sprayed, so a lot of the atrazine that's sprayed, which atrazine is like a residual chemical to suppress broadleaf in in corn ground. And so that is sprayed either when before the corn is planted, after it's planted, before it's up, or anywhere from knee high and down is when you're spraying that. So, and the amount you spray over an acre, which is like roughly the size of a football field,
Yeah.
is a quart, is how much of that you spray. And like
Mm.
the same with Roundup, there's not much of that. It's like a quart and less per acre. And Roundup is sprayed mostly before the corn emerges to kill weeds that are out there. But yeah, I think a lot of people think we're going out there and just drenching it with it as when it's almost ready to harvest. And that doesn't happen.
Is there I
And also, I don't, I hate a lot of this stuff, but it is like overplayed. And
Yes.
a lot of it comes to down to the desiccation thing, um, which I guess some people desiccate, but this is not a common,
Yeah. And,
people don't desiccate.
and
And
No, and desiccation for anyone who doesn't know is spraying whatever crop it is. Yeah, I mean most people aren't going to know
no
what
idea.
desiccation is. I didn't know until I got on Twitter because we don't do it here. Like it's a lot of like Canadians and northern states do it on some of their crops to, you know, to kill the crop to get it to dry down sooner, because if they don't do that, then it's not going to be dried down in time before it starts snowing. They kill it so it's dried down to harvest in time, and that's not something that happens here. That happens. I know it's big in Canada because I'm not going to say they do it on everything, but it's more widespread there, and kind of in the northern states like North Dakota, South Dakota, where a lot of wheat and stuff is grown. Probably, I don't know if they do it in Idaho at all or not, but Yeah.
Uh, I got two random questions now. I
Yes.
forgot. Do you
Yep.
guys produce any byproducts from all the stuff you take to process tallow and
Yeah.
the stuff that goes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are your
We've been
thoughts on
getting the
this whole
tallow.
tallow kind of resurgence?
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's what yeah, I
I'll
mean
say, man.
we've used some
What is
tallow
it?
bombs and
What did you say,
yeah,
Braxton?
go ahead.
No, I was just saying, don't say a name.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like I mean like a lot of tallow bombs and stuff like that. We've been keeping the tallow and we've been messing, kind of messing around with some stuff, just seeing what we can do with it. But like, the talk of fry oh shit.
Uh-oh, sniper.
Oh.
Where does it come from? Like
Got me.
what makes the tallow? Where does that come from? Like,
It comes from like the fat around the organs is where it comes
okay.
from. So they call
Okay.
it
That's
like leaf fat. Yeah.
Gotcha.
so yeah, so leaf that, yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, beef suet is what is like the technical term. That's the unrendered tallow. So like beef suet, if anybody sees of that or hears of that,
yeah.
that's what that
Suet
is.
is like organ fat.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And that's like your
You guys aren't selling the organs from the, so where does that stuff go?
so like we do sell liver, which
Okay.
surprisingly enough, liver sells out like almost immediately when we
Really?
put it on the website. I
Oh, that's
then
cool.
there's like everybody who's bought it has been like, this is the best liver I've ever had, and I'm like, I'm gonna take your word for it because
It's
I'm gonna
not
be
on
a
your menu.
4-year-old. I'm gonna be a 4-year-old about this.
I'm
I've
not
never
doing that.
tried
No.
it, so
Really?
I
Never tried
can't.
it? Oh
I've never
shit.
tried it, so I can't say that it's disgusting. But it sounds to me like it just I don't know. I'm gonna be a toddler about liver, and I'm not
Good,
trying it.
good. I like it.
You
Yeah,
like it.
and then like we hadn't got the heart back yet, but or, any beef heart back. But there's been some people who have wanted it, so that's
I've
the
never
cat.
had beef heart.
The calves we took here the other day to be processed. We're getting beef heart back on that. So if anybody hears this that has been wondering where you can get some amazing
Beef heart?
the most amazing, highest quality beef heart. It's great.
It's amazing. It's
It's
tremendous.
great. It's excellent. It's tremendous. It doesn't come from China.
It doesn't come from China. It's American beef heart, pure, very pure. Some say the most
Yeah.
pure.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But yeah, that's like liver and heart are two things that yeah, like liver, I think that's every time we restock with that, it's like an hour and it's sold out. Or not even,
Really?
as soon as people see we've restocked, they're like there was the first time we dropped it, there was one guy that sent an email and said, "Hey, it's only letting me add this many packages to the cart. How many do you have left?" And I just emailed the guy
Wow.
back. I'm like, "Well, we've sold some. That's all we have left." He's, "Oh, okay," and then get an order, and the guys ordered it, and he said he was happy with it. And I'm like, I don't know what constitutes good liver versus bad liver, but whatever we're doing,
Yeah.
apparently apparently makes good liver.
Yeah.
All right, I got
Uh,
one final question, and it's only because we were talking about all this stuff coming from other countries and all. What is your guys'
mhm.
take on the whole the Japanese Wagyu kind of fad, or is it sticking around, or what do you guys think
I
in terms of flavor if you've had it and whatnot?
I've had it. So I've not had a Wagyu steak, but I've had a Wagyu burger.
Yeah, I get the Wagyu ground
And
beef a lot.
so and this might be I got it in a restaurant and I don't this might be how it was prepared. I'm obviously not gonna say where I got it, but now it wasn't the worst burger that I've ever had,
Yeah.
but I'd have probably been happier with a McDouble, to be
Yeah.
honest.
What made you
It
try it?
just
Just because you wanted to try it, or
Yeah, we were
yeah,
just there and wanted to try it, and that was like their big thing was like, oh, our Wagyu burgers,
yeah,
they're outstanding, they're great. They gave me the Donald Trump speech about their Wagyu burger, and I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, this must be some good burger, and
yeah,
like I bit into it, and I was like, so I don't know if it was how it was prepared, but
yeah.
I'm gonna go with nobody should buy Wagyu, and they should just buy our Angus beef.
There you
That's what
go.
I'm gonna go
Hell
with.
yeah, I like that. There you go. There's the pitch.
Yeah, I got nothing. I think I haven't had great experiences. I think it's
Really?
marketing.
Yeah, I don't
Marketing.
know.
Dude, I got
Well, I just don't
freaking
get
my
it. Like
kids have covered this table
that is
with
weird.
chalk.
Did you just do a gender reveal? Are you having your fourth?
Yeah, I feel like that's what's happening. It's actually like
Braxton's
my
having another
kids.
boy, everybody. He's gonna name it Wagyu.
He's gonna he's gonna be 65 at the kids' high school
No
graduation.
shit. For real.
Gonna be in a wheelchair.
For real. Yeah, no, I think Wagyu is a scam, and my friends who got into it all lost money. So
Damn.
I don't think it's I think it's I don't think it's true. And then especially in like this uh over the top health conscious world,
Mm.
the whole thing about Wagyu was that they were gonna like stick them in a pen and feed them grain and beer and not let them like walk around for
Yeah.
a month. Like,
Well, and
I don't know.
they're
Like,
like almost 2.5 years old when they're finished. Like they take forever to finish, I think.
yeah, and
Oh,
in
why
the
it's so
US, like
expensive?
we talked about earlier, you can't pull prime cuts out
Yeah.
legally, or at least
Yeah.
Which
USDA wise.
that's why the Wagyu, they've got their own, I think that's why they have their own
Own
grading
grading
scale.
system, yeah.
And
Oh
I
It's
don't
yeah,
know if
yeah,
like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
A1 to
yeah,
like
A8
it,
or some shit. Yeah.
yeah, it's a something. I don't, yeah,
Yeah.
I've
yeah,
seen
yeah. I
that. And
forgot
Five
about
is what
that.
you'll normally see here. Yeah.
yeah, yep, that's what, and
Yeah.
that's the place where I had the Wagyu burger. They had, they had a meat case with, steaks and stuff for sale. And yeah, that's what I noticed. I was like, why do they have that? Why isn't it prime? Then I was like, oh yeah, they can't call it prime
They
if it's
can't.
over.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, and so I don't know if that's a USDA
Warranted.
grading scale that they
I think
got.
so. Yeah, I think so.
I would maybe
Although that's a
guess.
good question because I feel like, and I could be wrong, I could have just been inebriated. I don't know, but I feel like I've had Argentinian prime beef before. So I don't know. Maybe
That
I,
wouldn't be
Yeah,
USDA. Yeah.
yeah, maybe I
yeah,
made that
yeah.
up. I have no idea.
There's a lot. Yeah, which there's a lot of beef imported from Argentina, which
I love that
the
shit.
the
But
U.S.
yeah,
Cattlemen's Association is
they don't like that,
responsible
huh?
for a lot of that.
Oh, they
No,
are.
they're
Oh,
responsible
shit.
for a lot of these imports, and that's the axe I have to grind with them. So they think
Interesting.
importing cheaper
Curious.
beef from all these South
Well,
American
because
countries makes our prime cuts bring more. Now, I don't know if they've never got an economics lesson in supply and demand, but in my experience, the more supply you have, that doesn't mean the higher prices. But I could be wrong. They've got a different pencil than I do, obviously.
God, yeah, maybe. All
Yep.
right.
yeah, I would agree.
Yep.
All right, boys. Anything else you need us
Yeah,
to know
man.
about the Pasture Peak Farms that I have right here? This is it. This is the placard.
No,
Yep. Yeah.
And
Yep.
Braxton's got the
Pa-
shirt. Come and take it.
Yep.
PasturePeaks.com.
Yep. It's where you can find all our
Find the
beef.
meats.
Yeah, find your meats. We're gonna have chicken going on there here before too long. And yeah, all our you can get the come and take it
Yeah,
shirts from
come and
there. And
take
yeah, yep, get your come and take it beef shirt from there. And yeah, it's pasturepeaks.com. And I think, is it Pasture Peaks Farms on X, or is it Pasture Peaks? I
I have
can't
to
remember
find
what
it.
our
I didn't know
ad
you guys
is.
had one. I'm gonna have to go
Yep,
find it and start
yep.
can't even remember.
start
I
her after
actually
that.
can't remember.
I think it's Pasture Peaks is the at on there.
I think
Yeah,
so. Yeah.
yep. You type that in, or you can find it
Do you know
through.
which one of you actually runs it? Do you know? I know that either. Do you know how to log into
Well,
it?
Yeah, we both run it.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
wait. I
we
don't know
both.
if I should cop to that. He runs it.
Yeah,
It's that
yeah,
guy. The guy with the hat. The guy with the hat runs it.
yeah. Probably the guy with the hat and the face. Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Yeah. All right, boys. I appreciate your time. Good luck
yeah,
with what you're doing. I think it's awesome. I really do,
yeah.
and I'm looking forward to ordering some more. And
Yeah.
like I said, yeah, the fucking tri-tip's amazing. I love it. Keep doing great
Yeah.
things.
Awesome, man.
PasturePeaks.com. Follow Braxton. Help him tell that Lee
follow
guy.
Tristan, dude.
Yeah, follow him. No, I was just
Nobody
gonna start.
follows Tristan.
Yeah,
keep trying to get
I'm
people to
fine
follow
with it.
Tristan.
Well, we were
I'm
trying to
fine with
call
it.
him. We were trying to call him Lawrence, and then you just started dropping his real name.
Yeah,
So
no, I
was-
think my name's on Twitter, but yeah, I'm Lawrence because of a joke that's too far to explain, and then the Lawrence of Iowarabia thing is funny
the
and it
Lawrence of
works.
Iowarabia is pretty dope. I like
Yeah.
that. You should stick with that. Well, you got to get some sort of shirt theme coming out of that soon at some point.
I do, yeah.
Real.
Yeah, I'll have
Yeah.
to. I've been joking with him for years that I'm gonna send him a camel to train, so I could,
Oh, that would be
be out
dope.
there, so I
Hell
could be out there
yeah.
on a camel checking
See
cows.
that? Wait, that's my last transition. Braxton, you were in Iraq. I don't know if you ever had the opportunity, but has anyone had a camel burger besides me?
No, I never ate a camel burger. I ate some camel meat, dude. I never ate a camel burger.
I also had camel milk chocolate in Dubai.
See, this is what
That's-
they do for like recruiters. I never had this.
Yeah, well, if you can get camel on the website, that'd be great. They sell that camel meat down there at that fucking stop I was telling you about. Too. All right, boys. Thanks
Okay,
again
dude.
for your time.
Yeah,
Go out and do
talking.
great
Thank you.
things. All right, brothers.
Yep.